Okay, this is where we secure the tabs to the side walls of the box. These tabs here get secured through this hole. There are several different ways to secure and fasten sheet metal together. The obvious is welding. Welding is a way to fasten two pieces of sheet metal together. They're actually fused together. The metal gets fused together with welding. With sheet metal, it's pretty thin, and depending on the application, there are a few different ways to fasten two pieces of metal together. The most common is nuts and bolts. So you would drill all the way through both pieces of metal and then put a bolt in and put a nut on the back side with a washer and tighten it together. And then it would tighten the two pieces of metal together. There are sheet metal screws, which you could screw right through the two pieces of metal, and that would fasten the two pieces of metal together. And there's another simpler way called rivets. R-I-V-E-T, rivet. This is a rivet gun. It's just a manual, handheld, hand-operated rivet gun. These pieces are different adapters to fit different size rivets in. This is a rivet. The way a rivet works is you have to have the holes in both pieces of metal, and then you put the rivet through both pieces of metal like that, and then the rivet gun pulls this shank through. You see the little ball on the end of the rivet? This is how the rivet works. The shank part goes into the rivet gun, and then as you squeeze the handle, it pulls the shank through, which has a little ball at the end of the rivet that pulls through this hollow part. This is hollow, and it's just aluminum, so that ball travels through the hollow piece of aluminum here, and then it stretches. It will stretch that piece of aluminum, and when it stretches, that aluminum, it expands and pushes outward like that against the two pieces of metal and forces them to get tight together. Eventually it will pop like this. This is why they're called pop rivets. Once it pops, it pulls the shank off of the rivet, and this is left behind inside the two pieces of metal. So as an example, these two pieces of metal, I put the rivet through both pieces. Then I put the rivet gun on the shank and squeeze the handle. I have to hold these two pieces of metal together for it to stay tight. And you have to squeeze the handle 2 or 3 times until that ball comes all the way through and breaks off like that. Now these two pieces are secure together with that rivet. So that is how we're going to attach the tabs to the wall of the box. The reason why we put the holes in the outside of the box first is so that we would know where to put the rivets, so that they lined up to the top of the tab. We couldn't put a hole in the tab first because it would be really hard to locate on where exactly to put the tab. If we measured or put it in the wrong spot, the wall could end up being something like this when they went together. Or we could have missed the tab completely and not been able to rivet together. So we're going to use those two holes to line up a drill bit, and we're going to clamp it together and drill right through that hole. So the first thing I need to do is clamp the tab and that wall to this wall so that it doesn't move, and I line it up exactly where I want it, and then I'm going to clamp it together like that and then drill through that other bottom metal. So I have small C-clamps. The reason why these are called C-clamps is because they're a C. The frame of it is a C. And then this part you just raises and lowers, so lefty loosey, righty tighty, right? And I want to preset it so I'm about close to where the thickness of my metals are, because I don't want to have it all the way open and then try to hold it together and be fighting with it and having to go the whole length of the screw. So I'm going to get it close to where I want to set it. And it's important that you put the top of the C-clamp at the top of the metal. Because if I did it this way, even though this is much easier, if I clamped it this way, the drill won't fit. So I have to clamp it this way so I can get the drill by it. Now I can go anywhere around like this. So I have to clamp it this way, which makes it a little more difficult because the handle now, the screw handle, is going to be inside the box. Adjust this clamp by pulling the handle out so you can turn it, and then you can only turn it so far, so you've got to push it in and then turn it. And then push it back in, and then turn it. It takes a little bit of finagling to get it right where you want it, but the more time you take to set it up, the better job you're going to do. So snug it up. Don't make it super tight. Then adjust the wall where you want it in the clamp. Then you can tighten it up. Now, I don't want to just hold this in my hands and drill it because I could slip and hit my hand with the drill. For the drill, it's a cordless drill, and it's just controlled by this battery. The battery slides in this way, slides into that little groove, and then you push it in, and it'll clip in. That operates the drill. This is the collar of the drill. And as you turn it to the right, the chuck starts to close. That's the chuck of the drill bit. The drill. This is the chuck of the drill. So you want to set it up for the drill bit. This is the drill bit. One thing that's important to know about drill bits is they only cut on 2 blades at the tip of the drill. With drill bits, there are only what's called 2 flutes. The flutes are the blades of the drill. Every drill has a point like this. Sometimes the angle is different. It could be steeper like this one, or shorter and more shallow like this one. These drill bits have a shallow angle. These are for the rivets. So they only ever have 2 blades. All drill bits only have 2 blades on them, or 2 flutes they're called. 1, 2, right at the tip. These spirals that come out on the drill bit, down here on the shank of the drill bit, they are not cutting blades. What they are meant to do, they are for chip evacuation. They pull the chips out of the hole when you're drilling, so it doesn't cause damage inside the hole or bind up with the chips in there not coming out. The chips have to come out, the metal chips have to come out as you're drilling. So that is how drill bits work. Now I know what size the drill bit is because it tells me right on the rivet box, the hole for this rivet has to be 0.129 to 0.133, and says to use a number 30 drill. This is a number 30 drill. It has a grip range of 0.063 to 0.125. So that means it will expand 1/16 of an inch all the way around, because 0.063 to 0.125 is 1/16 of an inch. So now that I have this clamped up, what I'm going to do is put it inside a piece of wood like this, take another C-clamp, and this one you can go upside down because you're not drilling near it. So you can put your piece of wood in, put your clamp on, and just clamp the piece of wood to the box. Now I have a setup ready to drill. And I'm going to take this piece of wood now and clamp it into the vise. Now I have a safe setup for drilling, and I can drill right there safely. So putting the drill bit into the drill. Lefty loosey, I want to open up the drill chuck just enough to fit the drilling. Once it slides in, now I can clamp it down. I don't want to stick it all the way as far in as it will go, because it will damage the inside of the drill bit. So put it in far enough that the chuck isn't clamping on any of the flutes of the drill bit. So right about there. Now I just tighten it, and you'll hear it click. Now it's ready to go. When you're holding the drill, there's a button down here by the trigger. If you're right-handed, your right finger will be at the trigger, and there is a button on the left side by the trigger and the right side by the trigger. If you push it in on the left side, it will go counterclockwise. If you push it in on the right side with your trigger finger, it will go clockwise. That is the only way drills work. Most drills. Some special drills can cut left. Most drills cut clockwise. You have to make sure the right finger pushes the button in on the right to be cutting with the drill bit. Okay? Now that I know that my drill bit is in tight, the right side of the trigger button is pushed in, I'm ready to drill. So I'm just going to line up the drill bit with the hole, put my left hand on top of the back of the drill. This is only sheet metal, so it's not going to take a lot. But if you're drilling through hard metal, you have to get your elbow up and in line with the drill to get a good straight solid push straight down. You don't need to spin it as fast as it goes. All that does is burn the tip of the drill blades out. So about a medium speed like that and push. So get it in spot, start the drill and push. You don't have to push super hard either because this is just sheet metal. Don't blow the shavings because they could come back into your eyes, and your safety glasses are not 100%. It could bounce, little chips could bounce off your cheekbone and into your glasses. They can come off this, bounce off the side of your glasses in. So don't blow it. Also, don't use your finger to wipe it because you could get metal splinters. What we use is little brushes. These are chip brushes. If you want to brush away the chips, you use a little chip brush. Okay? Don't use your finger. Don't blow it. Now the hole is right there. It's good. The way it's set up right now on the wood, if the wood is not underneath this and you didn't drill into the wood, you can put your rivet in right now. So you just drop your rivet in. This thicker end goes into the hole. And the rivet gun goes over the shank like that. And then you just squeeze. You have to do it a couple times. Squeeze, open it again. You can readjust the squeeze again until it pops. Once it pops, the shank is still inside the rivet gun. You've got to make sure you empty it out. If you don't empty it out and you put another rivet in there, it could jam. And that's it. That side is riveted. Take the wood out of the vise. Always hold what's in the vise when you're unloosening it, so it doesn't fall or fly or tip up and hit you. Always hold what's in the vise when you're loosening it. So that's it. Now I can take the wood off. And I can take my side clamp off. And that's it. Now it's riveted together. If you don't have something clamped together and you're riveting it, you always have to make sure you're squeezing the two pieces of metal together so that they're as close together as possible. That way you have a nice, close, tight fit. Now you have a nice, strong corner. And you just follow up on all four sides, while the rest of the three. So I'm going to do the rest of the three sides now. So clamp. Snug it. Don't make it super tight. Adjust the clamp. Adjust the wall. Make sure it's the way you want it before you tighten it. And then tighten it. And you don't have to tighten it super tight. Just make sure it's tight. Now I put my wood in on the other side. Don't clamp it super tight because the C-clamp will dent your metal. Just get it tight enough that it's holding. And then I'm ready to drill. So long as the clamp isn't covering the hole. Put the wood inside the vise. V-I-S-E, vise. You can also put the wood in the clamp first and then put your box over it, because once you get the first rivet in, it's going to get in the way of the wood sometimes. So you don't want to make sure that the rivet doesn't get in the way of the wood, and make sure you're clamping flat against it, or you're definitely going to be bending the box. So now get up. There. Solid. Okay, that's what you need, is a solid place to drill. It needs to not be moving a lot. You can check by pressing down on the hole to see how much it moves. If it's bending and moving, you don't want to drill there. Put the drill bit in the hole. Left hand on top. That's it. Brush chips. Put in the rivet. See, now right now the clamp is in the way of the rivet gun. So I really need to move it out of the way before I rivet it. So I can, now that the hole is drilled, take it off. But once you take this off, it's very important now that you squeeze the tab together with the sidewall to make the metal as close together as possible. So put your rivet gun on and squeeze the two pieces of metal together so that they're as close together as possible. And then pop. Don't forget to empty the rivet gun. Now, just two more on the other side. And see what the clamp does? It's just little rub marks right now, but if you clamped it super tight, and it did bend a little bit on this one, but not much. If you tightened it much more than that, it would start bending and denting the metal. So be careful. Don't push super hard, but you don't want to smash into the metal with the drill. Rivet. Rivet go. And pop. And empty the rivet gun. That's where I want it. Clamp on. There. Very good. And last drill. By the way, if you're drilling and you don't see metal chips, there's something wrong. Either the drill bit is not sharp or broken, or you're going in the wrong direction with the drill. So that's it. Last rivet. Empty. Get off the wood. Take the last clamp off. And there you go. Finalized box. Done. There is, unfortunately, one last step you have to do. Pretty strong. The edges are nice and hemmed all the way around the top. But there are little pieces in the corners that might not exactly meet perfectly, that you're going to have to, this one right here, it does not meet exactly perfectly. So you got to do a little sanding, filing around. The rest of the other ones were actually really good. This one's a little tiny off, and this one's good. So this one here and this one here are like really good, but these two are not. So there's like, you can feel like sharp edges. And the walls here may have extra metal sticking over the side, like that. I aligned it when I clamped it up here to put the rivet in so that the top was flush with the corner. But you can see there's a little extra metal sticking over the edge going down the box here. See it sticking up right here? So it's best to file that off. When you're filing the extra metal down the edge, you don't want to file this way or this way. Because it's bending the metal, especially when you're going out. It's pushing the metal out. You can hear the difference. You can hear it that way. It's a little better this way, but it's best if you do it down the corner. That way. Much more stable. There, that's good. I'll file where my bend reliefs were. File the next corner. You can hear the difference when you're filing. When you don't hear, if you hear that, something's wrong. You're not filing correctly. There's not enough stability. In the metalworking industry, we call that chatter. It's called chatter because everything's moving and it's not solid. So if you hold it upside down like this on a solid surface, like the table, the edge of the table, or this up on the vise where the file can go down over the edge. The file will work much better. And you can make that corner nice and flush, that you feel like it was never even two pieces of metal. It'll feel just like a round little surface. The top corners, if they're sharp, it's a hem up top there. And if you file too much, you'll start splitting the hem. because you'll cut all that metal away on the seam and it'll become 2 pieces of metal. So be careful how much you file on the corners. Sand up the corners. And that's it, all finished.